my friends. We're live and recorded. So we're both, okay? We're live and we're recorded. Today we're the special guest, Nicole Padilla. You pronounce it pretty well. Padilla.
No accent here.
How long did it take you to figure it out, like, precisely?
Few years, yeah.
Really?
Is it Padilla? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, okay. Welcome to the show. This is Christian Podcast Latino. Millie is sharing the episode on her phone. And today we're going to be talking about your story. Okay, we're going to be talking about maybe what are you passionate about as of today? What is God doing in your life? And how people can learn from that and maybe participate in their own journeys, right? Sometimes I think that's one of the goals with the podcast is to inspire other people. I mean, first to pursue Christ and to pursue God. But we always give room to skeptics. Okay, so people that are like, I wonder what Christians are talking about, you know? So today I think you'll be talking to skeptics, you'll be talking to Christians, and from all over the world. So that's interesting because once we go on the website, there's people, you know, tuning in from everywhere. So you never know. But at the same time, and this is kind of like a long introduction, at the same time, I love this setting where we have in-person episodes because we do a lot of, you know, like talking to people on the online from other places, and they're like scholars or, you know, book authors or things like that. Yeah. But there's something about just like the local connection. Yeah. Right?
But it's like we're missing something. Yeah. I feel like at the end, it's like, oh, how we can be friends. Come over. Or, you know, we invite each other, but never happens. Our lives get so busy. Yeah. And they're so far.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we're literally neighbors.
Yes.
And I'm just a regular person. I don't have a book. But hey, let's talk about my story.
Book. Yeah.
Maybe one day.
Yeah. I mean, you never know, right? Okay. So let's start right there, Millie. I mean, I don't know if you want to introduce how you met because you were doing this Love Costa Mesa, something like that.
We connect like this, Beto. No, yes. I feel like God's people, it's amazing. I think God prepared our hearts, and it's when he's working, he uses his people, and he just make us be in the same time to come together for a reason, for his purpose. And we were serving. Yeah. I was volunteering at your mom's place. We were making her jar beautiful. And I was so blessed because they did it at my house too. Yeah. You know, so I was giving and I received, like, okay. But that's how it works with God. And yeah, you guys show up to volunteer the day. And I just hear that you were new in the community, right? Yeah. Here in Costa Mesa. And she was looking for opportunities to serve. And like, perfect. And I invite you to the podcast. Like, let's keep in contact. But we're like friends in Facebook. And then you send me a text message like, hey, I can't wait to listen to the next podcast. Like, wait a minute. We're missing one podcast with you. Let's do one, right?
So you can listen to yourself.
And then I was listening to your husband and what he does. And you can share a little bit about that. And I was so amazed, like, oh, wow, guys, you really are working for God's kingdom. And I think today we're going to learn a lot from you. And I just feel like we're going to receive a word today, Beto. And
love it.
I love so that. God, I know God used you, and I just want to receive and learn from you today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming, for your time. Yeah. You are a beautiful light in the world. You know, I was looking through your Facebook, like how people think the Christians are boring. Look at her life. Oh my gosh, this is so much fun. You know, she's sharing Jesus everywhere and around people all the time. And food around.
Yes. Well, thank you for that humble and so gracious introduction of myself. And I really appreciated meeting you too. I think serving alongside together, there's nothing that brings you closer together than serving, being on the ground floor, digging, getting dirty in the dirt together. that I think just kind of brings us all. We're all on the same page. We don't know what each other's statuses are, where we come from, but we just know we all have the same mission and purpose, which is to love our neighbors. And so we got to love others, but then I was like, oh, I really like her. I was like, I want to be her friend. So here we are. Wow. How long ago was that?
Oh, man.
Jeez.
I don't know. Like months?
That must have
if
been
not a year.
in May. Well, May is when they do the big event. Was it part of the big event? Like the
I
Love
think so. Yes.
The Love Costa Mesa.
Okay, that's in May. So May 2024. That must have been then.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're a little bit like Millie, because Millie is like, Beto, I met a new friend, and she's always looking for new friends. So I think you're maybe wired kind of the same.
Yeah, I'm an extrovert.
Oh, yeah.
You know, my introvert part, I think I killed it long ago. Because we both have, the two. But people give me so much energy.
Yeah, I agree.
And if I'm at my house just cleaning, it's fine. But I get like moody and mad. I just need people around me. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's me. That's literally me. I'm like, oh, I don't really want to do this. But hey, if we do it all together, oh, I'm down. I just love being with people. People do not drain me. They fill me up. There's something about someone else and hearing their story and their life and just being in their presence that just fills up my heart, my soul, my mind, everything. It like helps my mental health, which is funny because that's even one thing is, even therapy says, my husband is a licensed marital family therapist. And so even he helps his clients to go spend time with a friend. That'll actually help you. It's interesting that God created that in us to desire that connection. And so I think maybe extroverts are just more open about it. Like, yeah, I need people. Introverts do need people too, but they love that maybe smaller connection, that small group,
more
one-on-one, more intimate. And they're really deep and introspective. That's why I have really good introverted friends. Because I'm like, I need you. I need you to ask those thoughtful questions because I just want to hang out and have fun and drink coffee and eat. And they're like, Nicole, how are you doing? Tell me your heart. What are you learning? What are you reading? And then now they're getting all deep and I'm like, ooh, I needed this. Right?
Cool.
Yeah. That would be better.
Yeah. I think you too. You're like that too, But Millie for sure can get deeper sooner. Right? But that's what I'm looking for.
Oh, because I'm so open. Sure. Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for too. Like if I have new friends, to me, like a friend is when, I don't know, when you get to the point of even like maybe fighting with someone, right? And it's like, okay, now we're what do you say? We're coming up against one another.
Having in conflict.
Yeah, conflict. And I think that's good because that means you're knowing each other even more. And I think one question I want to ask you is like, how did you end up here? Because you said you were new to Costa Mesa. But before that, I wanted to say with the whole like friendship, I think America needs more friends.
Preach it.
Right? I think, when I look, I've been here 20 years and I think, I don't know if it's just Orange County or if it's harder in Orange County than maybe in other places. But having true friends and like deep friendships, it's hard, because everybody wants to live on the surface and they don't want to open up.
Yeah.
And if you don't open up, it's shallow, right? And it doesn't lead to, I don't know, a deep connection with somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been maybe just noticing, America needs more friendships. Just needs more people to connect and go and have fun. It's always, I don't know, it always seems like really superficial, like, yeah, we're going to hang out, but what am I going to get from this? It's always networking or something, which is great, but
business.
It's just business, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, how did you end up here? What's your story?
Yeah. So we moved, I say we, my husband and I, we've been married for 15 years as of this year. Okay. And we lived in Los Angeles. He's born and raised LA. He thought he was going to die in LA, like West Coast, like Tupac. Like he's like, he's just going to, live and die LA. And then, and I grew up in Long Beach. So Long Beach, I feel like is interesting because, if you're not familiar with this area, being in Orange County, there's just the beach life. It's a little bit more chill here. And then you're in LA, it's the hustle and bustle. There's a lot of traffic. And then Long Beach is that beautiful in-between. And so then I grew up in this in-between, always went to the beach growing up. We met actually in the church. We met at a friend's birthday party. I can share about that later if that comes up. But, and so then we get married right after I graduate college. And so we build up our lives serving the church, serving God in the LA area. And the pandemic happens. Everything's closed. And we're like, well, we have a conviction. We need to go on our date nights every week. Weekly date nights are super important to us. And so
preach it.
Háblanos, Jesús.
Oh, trust me, that has made a huge, huge difference. If you want to make one change in your marriage, go on a weekly date night, or even just add a date night, just in some sort of even if you start monthly, then every other, it's just made a huge, huge difference. And so as we're looking for our date nights, we're going, well, wait. Everything's closed in LA. You can't even go to the park in LA. We would go and pick up food. We couldn't even sit in the park. It was just all closed off.
Weird.
Oh, so it was so crazy. It just felt like, am I living in the Twilight Zone? What is going on here? I'm just trying to love my husband, love God. So then we realized things are somewhat open in Orange County, right? The regulations were a little different. And so my husband and I, just one day, he goes, babe, I'm thinking about moving to Orange County.
Wow.
I was like, you know what? I thought the same thing.
Wow.
We prayed and thought of it individually, which I think the Holy Spirit told us that individually. And we're like, oh. And so we talk about it. We talked to our ministers because we were very involved in our church in LA. And so we said, hey, we'd love to see if we can just move over into Orange County. What do you think about that? We had lots of talks just to make sure that all of our responsibilities in our church in LA were taken care of. People can fill in. And then we moved to OC to then serve a church here as well. And that meets in Huntington Beach. And so we moved to Huntington Beach, and it's just, so here we are in Orange County. And I'm just like, I live in Huntington Beach. Wow. And then now we live in Newport Beach. We wanted to get as close to the ocean as possible. Yeah. So there's a short drive from here, which is so nice.
So that's how it's a huge blessing, to live where we live. We can see the ocean too. So I was like, I will never move. Plus, my kids' school, they're around. We have 3 schools, and take us 7 minutes to go to get the 3 of them. So it's nothing. Yeah. Basically, it's around the corner. Yeah. So blessed.
I didn't realize how much my quality of life would change, and how much even living out my discipleship or my Christianity, living at being friends with people live closer in OC. I just remember being in LA, and you would have to drive
far distances.
Oh my gosh. It'd be like a 45-minute drive just to see a friend, to go out to dinner together. And I'm like, oh wow, I have so many friends within 10 minutes of each other. And
nice.
The living life. And you talked about friendship. I feel like I've been able to I moved here and built really deep friendships just real quick. I was like, I'm going to give my heart. And if they accept it, great. And if not, well, that's on them.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I think you might be a Proverbs 17. Is it Proverbs 17:17? Where it says, I'm translating it from Spanish to English, okay? So maybe it's not exactly, so forgive me. But I think it says something like, if you want to be a friend, you got to show yourself a friend. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's people that are wired that way. For some of us, a little more introvert, it takes a little bit longer, but we can get there. But some people are just because I've had friends like that where they just want to be friends, and they show up. So maybe it was easier for you to be friends.
I had a friend. She would always be so upset with me. Oh, everybody's your friend. Everybody's your friend. No, Millie, it's not like that. I just want to be friends with everybody. Yeah.
Because
I just love people.
We go places. Inevitably, Millie will say hi to me. They're random people because I don't know them, but she knows everybody. So today, I see a woman on a scooter, and I have a scooter. One of those kick scooters. So I have one of those. I'm like, look, I started that because I've been riding my scooter since 2020 or before, you know? So, and now everybody rides.
In LA, it's more common, but here,
LA,
nobody is on scooters.
But now more people ride the scooters. And I told Millie, oh, look, there's a woman on a scooter. I imposed the trend. And Millie's like, oh, that's my friend.
Oh, my God.
I'm like, oh, great. Yeah. And anywhere we go, you know, like we're going to get stopped and she's going to talk to somebody that she knows.
Wow.
And,
I love
and
that.
plus, I have picture memory. That's how it's called. If I saw you for the first time and I can meet you 5-10 years later, I know your face. I saw you before. Beautiful. So it's in...
Like, I know you from somewhere.
Yes.
Right? Yes, that is true. I'm like, your face looks so familiar. What's your name again? Yeah, no, I love it. Well, it's interesting because there's, and I'll have to find it somewhere, but there's a study that shows like successful people usually say hi every day to 6 new people.
Oh, I love it.
So even today, I went for a walk. I was like, I'm going to go pray. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to get my heart right, you know, be ready. And then I was like, there were so many people just walking along. When I was outside, I was like, oh, that was 6 people. Woohoo, I did my 6 today. No, so I'm going to be successful. Cool. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Imagine me Fridays and Saturdays. That's how I feel. Because I'm in the grill cooking for people, right? In the snack bar. And I'm just... looking at new face. The funny thing now, I know how they like with salsa or no salsa because their faces. You know, I don't know their names, right? But like, because I see them and they're clients now, and I'm so happy. And for me to ask them, "How's your day? How's your day going?" You know, I like just to say something good about them, and at the end, enjoy your food. Hopefully, you like it. And I don't know. I just love people. It's so much fun for me.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love it.
So what are you passionate about? You know, I mean, this is cool story coming from LA. I just went to LA. We went to LA to watch a LAFC game.
Such a life-giving. So much fun.
It's so different. Like LA is so different, like way different. It's just, I don't even know how to describe it other than it feels a little bit more like Mexico, but really
a lot of
diverse.
Anglo too,
Yeah, really diverse.
Wow.
Right? And like this LAFC game, you see a lot of Latinos, especially in the supporter section. They're just chanting all throughout. Like really, they started, you know, like the whistle to start the game. And they start chanting, da, 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 da. And Mira's like, are they going to stop at some point? No. I'm like, yes, in the middle when we have the 15-minute break. and then they come back, you know, so that's the only break they take when the teams go back inside. But as soon as they whistle, the chanting starts, you know. And the funny thing is that, you know, in the whole stands, there's all kinds of people, you know, like Anglo and, I don't know, different races and ethnicities and whatnot. And to me, it was beautiful, you know, because here we are watching a game, but it's just so different, you know, like LA in that sense is, I don't know, I feel like it has a, and I'm saying it because, you know, I want to know a little bit about your husband's background, you know, like growing up in LA and all of that.
Yeah.
Because it seems like they're not really Mexican. It's like now they're Latino. Now it's almost like a new thing, you know, like, yes, our background might be either from Mexico or Guatemala, because you can see it even, they have flags, right? As they're, you know, chanting. Yeah, they have, you know, just different countries where they maybe come from or their families come from.
Yeah.
But in a sense, like all together, it feels like, okay, that's just Latinos from LA, you know? So as they're chanting, they're saying LA, LA. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, that truly is Los Angeles. It's almost like a melting pot now of different cultures.
Yeah.
And
the Anglo, they're there and they're singing in Spanish. And I'm like, oh, wow, they're having so much fun in singing. Like they're doing workout, Beto, because they're doing this all the time, the 2 hours with their hands.
Yeah, fun. So anyways, all that to say, you know, LA is different. And you know, how was your husband's upbringing in LA? Like, what's his background and how did you connect? Like, do you connect to that background?
You know that's such a great question. So I think where we unite is we did come from troubled childhoods, and I can clarify that, but it's, you know, he grew up in a little city just right by LAX. So LAX is our international airport in Los Angeles. And it's the nickname of like the little town that he grew in. Now I say little town, but it's like literally the city, and it's like right by the ocean, but nobody goes to the ocean. It's called like Little Tijuana.
Oh, wow.
Because there's just like it's just, you hear the rancheros, you hear like the roosters in the morning. Like it's almost like Little Mexico, you know?
I know what it is.
Okay, we have a friend that lives really close to there.
Or there, probably.
Yeah.
You know, like everything's in Spanish. All your neighbors are Spanish speaking. And so that's how he grew up. So he didn't learn, and he was the first in his family to be born here.
Okay.
So I personally admire just, you know, his mom traveled across the border to have him here. So he doesn't know his real dad. He grew up with his stepdad. There's, you know, stories about why, but, and so his mom and his stepdad raised him. And then all his younger siblings are, half Cuban, and his mom is Honduran. So he's 100% Honduran. And so we've actually visited his family in Honduras.
Wow.
And it's just like, and it's very, going and visiting Honduras, which when we visited in 2014, it was his first time actually visiting Honduras.
Wow.
He had never been.
Yeah, because he was born here.
He's born here. There's everything here. His mom was like, you don't need to visit, you know, and it also cost a lot of money to take her kids. So she would go and visit family. And so basically when we visited, I think it helped me to understand a lot about how he grew up, because his mom would pretty much run her household in the way that, you know,
with her traditions.
Exactly. And so now I'm like, oh, I get it. I understand. But what I appreciate about the Latino culture that maybe necessarily I didn't grow up with or experience in the same way was they could just hang out. They just sit and hang out and talk and eat. Like we would go, even when we visited in Honduras, there was I would wake up to the sound.
The tortilla.
Tortillas a mano. Yeah. Oof.
And I was like, they're making breakfast for us, like just fresh food. And then we come out and they're like, sit down. Was it siéntate? And it's just like, oh my goodness. And I was like, the hospitality.
We're so good at it in Latin America. Yeah, the best.
And so I just like that it's so interesting because even when I fell in love with him, he's, you know, American Latino. I don't know if he would even call himself that, but, you know, definitely born and raised LA. So when you say like LA, there is a difference, like, you know, I see in how he walks and talks versus maybe someone who grew up in the country, their home country. But I was like, but I still appreciate just that culture that he grew up in, that I'm like, those same principles, I want that in my life. I want that in my spouse, you know?
Yeah. And what is your background?
So I grew up in Long Beach. I was born in Pennsylvania. So my like great grandma immigrated here from Romania, actually. Okay. So I'm like fourth generation, like American. So I'm not too connected with my European roots, but I just think that's fascinating. We actually did go to Romania last year, and it's not like I know any family there or anything, but I was like, wow, I'm from here like hundreds of years ago. Wow. You know, and so, yeah, literally I was born in Pennsylvania. I still have family on the East Coast, but I moved out to Long Beach because my dad was in the Navy. And so he got stationed in Long Beach. And when we moved here, unfortunately, because my dad was out at sea so often, my parents did get a divorce. And then I was raised by my stepdad and my mom. And that was interesting growing up with a stepdad, because I always appreciate, I mean, he's my dad, right? But then my biological dad is my dad, right? So it's like I have these. I have two dads. Like I'm plentiful. I've got all these parents, and I have a stepmom too. I'm like, wow, look at me. I've got all these parents. But as a kid, it didn't feel that way. It felt like, oh, I'm embarrassed I have two dads. So when I grew up in Long Beach, now I grew up in very different neighborhoods in Long Beach. So my dad owned his own business, my stepdad, and so sometimes we'd do well. And we lived in maybe like the middle class. And a lot of times the business wasn't doing well. And we lived in hard to do areas of Long Beach. And so I grew up knowing what not having a lot felt like, And that was challenging as a kid, right? Like asking my parents, can I have a new pair of shoes, but having to go to Payless and get the clearance shoes because we couldn't afford like the new Skechers when Skechers was big or whatever, you know, or Nikes. I was like, oh yeah, right. I never owned Nikes like as a little kid. And so I think that that's where my husband and I bonded because we grew up with little, because again, his mom and his stepdad were immigrants. And then my parents were trying to make it work, had his own business. Sometimes my mom would work, sometimes my mom wouldn't. And so, but we still worked really hard for what we had. And I think that's where now as adults, we get to live that out. Like, I had to work hard to get good grades in school. My parents never went to college. I had to make it my own way through college. I had to pay my own way through college. We paid for our own wedding. Like our parents, I don't know, maybe they put in like $100, you know, but it was really the church, our community. Talk about friends. It was our friends, our community, our church, and the little bit that we had, because literally we had little to make, you know, to put our wedding together. But it's like we were, and then he, you know, went through school. It's just crazy how far we've come. And so I think there's also that mutual respect in our relationship of the hard work that we've had to put in because we came from little.
So you were a team since the beginning.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Wow.
Sounds beautiful.
That brought us together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much value in what you're saying because, I mean, one is, I think if I'm speaking to Latinos, because there's a, now we're actually branding the podcast as Christian Podcast Latino because we realize, okay, we're Latinos and probably the most people that will listen to us will be Latinos, even though, like I said, you know, anybody can listen to it, right? But not everybody can
listen to this.
Listen
to me.
To an accent. Not, yeah, I mean,
so sad.
To an accent, right? I mean, just be honest, right? Some people say, right? But some people like it, right? Some people maybe that are Latinos are like, oh, I like her because she's, right? They resonate, exactly. So if I'm talking to some Latinos, I think there's so much value in what you're saying because I think sometimes the perspective from Latinos is, oh, Anglos have it figured out and all together, you know?
No.
And it's like, okay, they have the better life. And I mean, sometimes that's sad, you know, because we know plenty of people and, you know, on the Latino side. And to me, that's super, what do you say? I don't know. It's just super sad when in a sense, like you victimize yourself and you don't realize that this can happen. Wow. It's just life. You know, it's not really about colors or races, even though there's some of that, right? Especially in America, you know, and how the country was founded, you know, and maybe if you go back to like in history, slavery, like that's a reality. We're not denying that. But at the same time, you know, when you don't value yourself, you're always going to see the other as they're up there. Yeah. And you always see yourself as less than. And I just want to invite people to kind of like break out of that. And in your story, I think that's why there's so much value, you know, like to say, hey, you know, like you had to pay for your college. You had to work hard. You had to get there. Yeah. It's not easy, you know, even though you're fourth generation American, right? So, I mean, that's just a huge lesson for many Latinos.
You're preaching to me, Beto. You're preaching to me. I feel like I've been there. Exactly what Beto has mentioned. But God helped me through this, and reading his scriptures, you know, reading the Bible is so helpful. You know how they say that the world will never come back empty, you know, and one day I just understood that we need to fight from victory. Yeah. We are victorious, not victims. And that hits me like, oh, that's right, God, because if you are in me, you're everything I need, and you're in charge, and you have a better plan than mine. So I release all to him. You know, I brought you my problems. I brought you my kids. Here's my husband. I can change him, but you will. And the most important thing, change my heart, change my mind. Yeah. And we can do this only through Jesus. Yeah.
I mean, I love what you're saying. It's like only through Jesus. And I think that's why I clung to God as a little girl. Not even, I mean, I went to a Christian church growing up, but it was challenging because I would go to church on Sunday, but because I also, within my family, my parents were alcoholics. And then there was also drug abuse in my home. And so I was scared as a child. Like I would go home feeling scared. And so even as an adult, I deal with anxiety. And so I'm processing it, I'm working on it, and I'm actually getting better in handling it. But I look back and I'm like, it's because I'm so used to, as a little girl, not knowing what to expect. Is my mom going to be drunk? Is there going to be food on the table? Am I going to have to like find something to heat up on my own? Like, is my dad going to come home? Like, what's going to happen? There was so much chaos in the home. And so I think that's interesting because I look back and I'm like, wow, I remember praying as a little girl, just knowing that God was like my safe place. Because I was like, where is my safe place? I mean, I'd go to school, but school only was for a few hours of the day. And then I look back and I'm like, wow, then I became a teen. And then as a teen, I'd be part of all the clubs on campus. I was in choir. I was in whatever I could be a part of. I was there. I was doing, like plays, musicals in school. I was also a part of my church. So if there was any youth group event, I was going to the youth group event because I didn't want to be home. It was scary. And God really brought me some sort of peace, even as a little girl. I didn't quite understand it, but at least he gave me that outlet. And so then as an adult, I'm like, oh my gosh, now he has to even be my peace even more. Like, it's just, but I look back, I'm like, that was God. Like, without God, I don't know where I would be. Like, he literally brought people in my life. He brought mentors. He would bring a teacher or a counselor or friends. I'm just like, I don't know how, there's just no way I would be where I'm at. Because people look at me, like you said, oh, like the Anglos, they look at you as if you have everything. Yeah, I've been told that. That has been a stereotype. Someone come up to me and said, well, that's not fair. You've been, fed with a silver spoon, which means like you've had everything given to you. And I was like, oh, I wish that was my life growing up, but it was very difficult. Now, maybe different difficulties, but I still had to work for what I got, and so, and maybe I had a little bit more advantages than others. It just depends on how you see the world. But even then, I struggle with the victim mentality. I struggle. And that's what I've been working on personally. It's like, I am not a victim.
Where do you struggle with victim mentality?
It's kind of like the poor me attitude, kind of like even talking about mental health, like depression is kind of like,
talking about triggers.
Oh
my goodness. It's like,
yeah, I could talk about that.
I just learned that new word because like, but I think you had just had a trigger. Like, what are you talking about? I'm healthy. God transformed me. I'm a new person. And I'm crying, all devastated for a situation. Like, oh my gosh. So I try to reach out more information about triggers, like so much to heal.
Yeah.
So much to heal from my past that I thought was resolved. But and I'm so thankful for the triggers because now I can react to them the different way.
Yes.
This is triggering me. Why? Why now? What God wants to He wants to still heal me in my heart, and so that way we can be mature for what He wants us to do, right?
Yeah.
And so I know we're His vessels. That word.
Vessels.
Vessels.
Vessels. Yes.
Yeah. Es como beso.
Vessels.
Oh, not beso.
Not
we learn
beso.
Spanish in this season too.
Yes.
I mean, I think what you're saying is so valid because I think the word trigger is just used in society. It's like, well, you're triggering me and that's a trigger. But what we do is then we pull back. That's giving me anxiety. You're giving me anxiety. The way you're saying that is giving me anxiety. The way you're looking at me is giving me anxiety. Oh my gosh. Like
that's our world right now.
Oh my gosh. And trust me, I've said that to myself, but then I'm like, whoa, that is a total lie from Satan. The victim mentality goes, you are causing me to feel this feeling. You're giving me anxiety. No, nobody's giving you anxiety. Anxiety comes from you. It starts within you.
Yes, you believe that.
Yes, your brain is triggering a physiological response in your body. But your brain is looking at that person. Oh, maybe they said something and it's triggering you. Your brain thinks somehow that's dangerous. But to someone sitting next to you, they'd be like, that's not weird. I'm totally not triggered. So is it really that person then, or is it you? It's me. I'm the one that sees it in an unsafe way. So I have to deal with it. And so it's like, okay, dealing with those triggers. It's like, okay. So now if something happens, something minimal, somebody cuts me off in traffic, right? Okay, wow, that makes me mad. Like, why they gotta cut me off? Wait a minute, this is good feedback. Okay, feedback. I'm going to receive this as feedback. So this is the way I'm rephrasing it, right? Okay, this makes me upset. Why is somebody cutting me off make me upset? And then I ask myself those questions. I'm like, oh, because I feel like they're taking space from me. Why would I think they're taking something from me? This road doesn't belong to me. We're all driving together, right? And so then I'm like, well, then what deep down did I learn in my childhood that would make me feel like they're taking something from me? And then I start, then I get into a deep hole and I'm in meditations and I'm praying and I'm like, God, show me, but that's where you take the power back and you're not a victim. You just take everything as feedback, ask yourself those questions, ask God to show you. And it is so freeing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's powerful. There's how you respond to events. I mean, that's funny because I always tell Millie that example, of driving. And she's like, wow, that's funny because it doesn't really happen to me that much. Right?
I care less.
Yeah, she cares less.
Never.
But it's a very typical.
Me.
It's a very typical.
Because I'm.
What do you say? Example, right? When you're driving. And anyways, all that to say, which I forgot, let me bring it back.
And
reel it in.
My sister-in-law told me, Millie, I think it's because you're the person who comes and, oops, maybe I'm the one who causing problems to other people.
Yeah, Millie's the one cutting people off.
Sorry.
You're like putting your hand out the window. Sorry.
Yeah. What was I going to say?
I'm helping them.
React. Because there's a little bit of... So, as I was saying at the beginning, that America needs more friendships and all of that. I've been here 20 years in America. And, just trying to understand where I'm at and why this country is the way it is. And, we just went through an election time. And, right, it was wild. So anyways, I'm just trying to figure out what is America? Why am I here? And how can I contribute to it?
Yeah.
From my
background,
right? The background that God brought me here with, which is, to this day, and we always say it on the podcast, we are undocumented to this day here in America, 20 years. Okay. And so anyways, that gives you just a way different perspective because at this point, I'm like, okay, I haven't been in Mexico, right? Because I can't travel. I haven't been in Mexico in 20 years.
Wow.
But I'm not a citizen of the U.S. But am I really a Mexican if I'm not in Mexico?
That's interesting.
Right? So I feel like I'm neither at this point, but I'm probably more American than I think because I've been here for so long, so even as an undocumented... I'm an American citizen, right? So that sounds kind of weird. But all that to say, I feel like I look at America and then I start thinking, okay, like that example, why do people bring it so much? Why is it a thing? And, the fact that I said also, like, I feel people need more friendships and like go from the shallow to the deep, right? Relationships. So I was thinking, okay, America has a lot of like my way or the highway. And I think that's what it means, right? When you're driving and you get in, they're not getting in your way. You're just thinking it's your way, but it's everybody's way. That's why it has so many lanes, right?
Reach.
So, but that's the interesting thing of America. Like, wow, like everybody's just pursuing their own thing. Like the other day, and I felt like God brought me this picture. We were driving, I don't know, somewhere, and we saw a park, right? And in this park, I was trying to get to Dorian's, our middle son. He had a soccer game. So as we're getting there, we're driving through Irvine, which is a really nice city here in Orange County. With big streets and big parks and stuff.
Green everywhere. And
Beautiful.
As I'm driving through one of them, I see like a dad. I don't know if it was a dad, but for sure like a coach coaching a kid baseball, but like one-on-one. And I saw that and I'm like, that picture just stuck with me because it's like, wow, America is so interesting. It's like everybody wants to be someone, right? And what is that someone in America? Well, you're either, an artist, a musician, an athlete, and always you want to be the best, right? Like we're never, what do you say? We're never comfortable. I don't know if the word's comfortable, but in Spanish, nunca estamos a gusto con nuestra posición. So we always want like the best position, right? We want to win the gold medals. We don't want to win bronze. If we win it, I mean, it's okay, but we're really aiming for gold. And that's not bad. But what I notice is that it almost seems like everybody's on that trajectory of like, if I don't start right now with this kid as he's 5 on this field, coaching him every day one-on-one so that one day he can be the best. Like, I wonder how many parents or coaches do that and how many will get to be the baseball player.
And that's how they think. Remember, I went to this coach and I asked him for a scholarship to my son.
Oh, yeah.
And he went and saw him and he came to me and he told me literally, your son is not good. So I have no reason.
Gonna make it.
I have no reason to give you a scholarship because he's bad. And he's never going to make it because he's so old. And he's old? 12 years old? Okay. Yeah. I have kids who started since they were 5. So he's never going to make it. So don't waste your time. So maybe, you can bring him to me and we can do something. And I'm just thinking, no, thank you. You think I want my son to come to you to put him more down? Like, I think sometimes we need that, right? You're not going to be good at it. And like, just see me, right? But also, I think the way he put my son down and me, I was like, this is not coming from God, because with God, we have so much hope, right? Because who cares who you are? In me, you can do everything through me, And what you were saying, Beto, I love that because we turn our own gods, right? When we just fight to have something or to be someone, we fight so hard just for us.
Yeah.
But the difference is when you do everything for God to glorify Him, that's the difference. Because you're going to do the best. Why? Because it's Him through you.
Yeah.
And He's the best. He's perfect. Yeah. He's so all-powerful, but it's for His glory.
Yeah. And those seem to be the stories that inspire, right? I'm just kind of like, I feel like a little bit of an outsider in America. And for example, some movies we watch that are inspiring of like a coach teaching the underdog team, we're going to win or whatever, right? And they end up winning the season or the medal or the whatever it was, right? Because there's a lot of those movies. But what's interesting is that it's usually like the local team.
Yeah.
Right? And why is that inspiring? Well, because somebody went out of their way to build an entire community around this idea of like, hey, let's come together. So there's that element of like, I'm not doing it for myself, for just to be the god of this sport or the god, like just get my own glory. And I think that's why those stories inspire. In America, it just feels like a brewing ground for either or, like America, it's like, why do people come from so many other countries, from Honduras, from Mexico, from Romania to America, right? It's because like for me, all my life, I've heard America is the greatest country in the world, right? And then you look at, like in my case, it was music.
American dream.
I wanted to come here because music, right? Like all the music that I heard was from the United States.
Yep.
And then one day, when I came and I started, playing and blah, 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 never really got there. We never really made it. But then on another sense, I feel like, wow, there's like, for example, in Mexico, there's so much talent, but maybe they never had the people that, I don't know if it's the
mentorship?
people, but the mentorship, the money, the community to go around and say, this is how we take you to the next level.
Yes.
And you become successful, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because America has a lot of that for everything,
Yes.
for sports, for music, for everything.
For church.
For churches. We're the best at everything, right? And that's why people want to come to America, to be the best, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, who's giving an opportunity and who's to say that God's not going to use the people in their own home countries if they don't have the resources, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Right. And so, for example, the other day I was watching a woman give a speech for missions gathering. And she was from Brazil, but I don't remember if the conference was in Brazil or somewhere else. But she was speaking to Latin America and she was saying, look at us, look at Latin America. We became from being the mission field, we became missionaries, and now we're sending people to the rest of the world, and that's why I tell Millie when I'm here in America, and especially with the background we have, I'm like, we're missionaries in this country, and God has allowed for us to not have a citizenship so that we can be relatable to so many people that are here with the same situation
with you.
as us.
Yeah.
We are in the same,
Right?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting because, I love that there is so much opportunity here in this country, right? And so it's like you could either look at it as like, oh, wow, it's just all for one type of person. That's kind of like the victim mentality. Or like you were saying is you can build a community around you, build mentorships around you that actually like help you achieve your dream. And the fact that you can actually achieve that, or if your son is probably not going to build the skills that he needs, there's still other opportunities. Like he can still build a successful life and still be on leagues in that particular sport. And I just love that it's just like endless and it's open. And I feel like that's where God is so abundant. Like he doesn't put us in a box. Society wants to put us in a box. Culture wants to put us in a box. Our upbringings want to put us in a box. Our families want to put us in a box. What is it? My husband talks about crabs in a bucket. I don't know if you've ever heard of crabs in a bucket.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like
Los cangrejos en el...
Que te jalan.
Yeah,
Yes.
like that phrase of like, the crab wants to get out of the bucket, but then each of the crab they try to climb on each other. And so they bring each other down. And so unfortunately it's sometimes what family is. And so he has shared that, personally with his family. And I'm like, I kind of feel that with my family too. It's like when you try to break out of that cycle and try to do something different than what your family is doing or what you grew up in, then others look at you as like, well, yeah, I see what you're doing. Oh, now you think you've got it all. My husband's been told that. I have been told that. And it's just like, I just want to achieve my dreams. Leave me alone.
They driving by their fears, and they pass it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is hard.
It's rough
to get out.
So what is success from your vantage point? Successful in America even?
Yeah. Well, I think it's having, I think the community, first of all, having those friendships, that is so rare to have those deep, intimate friendships and relationships to have 3 people. Like I was reading a statistic, if you can have 3 people that you can call at any time and you are going through a hard time and they will listen to you and not judge you, that is already going to increase your life. You will actually live longer on this planet. Yeah.
So nice.
But that's not found in a lot of spheres, right? And so having that community, having that friendship, and of course we want to blame it on, oh, well, it's just culture, it's just society. No, you got to find them. We got to go after them. You got to give your heart. You got to be willing to be hurt right? In order to be like, oh, this person didn't work out, on to the next, So it's definitely having that. I think having that. I think of a lot of success is having that inner peace, right? Inner peace that honestly only comes from God. I've tried my hardest to find inner peace in self-help books. I have tried to find inner peace from my therapy, right? Getting therapy. I've tried to find it from growing in the corporate ladder and being manager and, making more money. I don't feel it from any of that. And so has been deepening my relationship with God, and finding confidence and security in Him that has given me a lot of that inner peace that I'm still working on. Yeah. But I think also then too is being able to not be afraid to have dreams. Now, dreams are different for everyone, right? Having those dreams and then not being afraid to go after it, and then pulling in the resources and then putting them before God and allowing God, like you said, to allow them to happen. So I just say those three things.
Yes. I love that. Yeah. Paul, he's basically the author of half of the New Testament in the Bible. But he's so epic because in the book of Acts, you can see his trajectory, right? And everything he lived and all the struggles he went through physically, emotionally, and all kinds. And and even God, when he when Paul has a conversion from persecuting Christians
to being a killer.
Yeah. From being the killer to being a proponent of Jesus. God says to him, I will show him how much he should suffer for my message, basically.
Wow.
Right? And then he goes through this ordeal of things. But what I love about Paul is that he's so confident in the calling he has, and I feel like that's his ambition, and in one of the scriptures in the Bible, it actually uses that word or that translation, like Paul's ambition is to preach the gospel to the Gentiles, so the people that are not Jewish. And that's his ambition. That's like, I'm going to do this,
and guess
even
what?
though this is going to be the last thing I do.
Yes.
I'm going to pursue this 100%. And then in the book of Acts, you can actually read how it says that, and maybe tapping into the bivocational. Maybe we can talk about that, because it says that he sustained himself.
Yeah.
And when people are like, hey, we want to give you money, it's like, yes, give me money. But, I have
plenty.
I have plenty, I have work. I work for what I have, and I'm okay financially, basically. Right? So he was super confident in I'm aiming for this goal. I have this dream. This is my ambition. This is what I'm pursuing. And it's for the sake of the gospel, right? It's not just just to make money, but to really share the gospel and preach it. And here we are, 2,000 years later, having half of our Bible come from him because he had that passion.
He was victorious.
Yes.
Wow.
How in the world he was in jail and wrote that beautiful letters. Yes. And he was not asking, please pray for me so I can get out.
Yeah.
Ever.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
Right? He was teaching people. He was giving hope to people. And no. I'm so amazed, because if we see his life, in compared with our lives, that we're not suffering. Honestly, we're in a beautiful bubble here. In Costa Mesa, we have everything. If I'm poor here, I'm rich in everywhere else around the world. My kids go to the best schools, like even the public ones, they look like private because they can pay 9 extra teachers to help them. It's like the material they have. It is amazing because a lot of parents, they put a lot of money on their education, so the schools look like private, and the view, the weather, like the food, we have so many organic products everywhere. And this is heaven. And we sometimes victimize ourselves, like, oh, why? Because it's so much wealthy people here. Then you feel like you're super poor compared to them.
Yeah.
But this is extreme, what they have and they own, it's insane. But that's why refocus ourselves in Jesus, who we are and what we have. And we can have that gratitude in our hearts that in Him we have everything, you know. I'm so impressed by Paul.
Yeah. I mean, you look at Apostle John. I mean, he wrote John, 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, Revelation, and he wrote he was in exile. He was pretty much in jail in the island of Patmos all by himself. They just, here, we'll go put you. And those are on the times when the islands were like where you didn't want to go because nobody lived there. Like now islands like, I want to go vacation on an island. No, he was not vacationing. But I'm just like, but he still's like, no, I need to write this message. I need to write to the disciples and make sure that they have comfort because they are going through crazy persecution right now. They are being killed for their faith, but I'm still going to send that message out to them. And I was like, wow. So if they could do those huge impactful things, Paul, John, all the, with the little that they had, and yet I literally live in rich abundance. What impact can I have? What can we do? And so that's where I'm like, okay, like you say that calling.
Let's do this.
Yeah, let's do it. What can I do? What's my calling? Let's go, God. Woo! You know? So
love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's end on that. What are you currently doing with Pablo, right, Paul?
Yeah, exactly.
With Pablo. Because you guys were saying, you know, you like to help people in their like bivocational ministry, or what is that? You know, what are you currently working on as a couple in the type of work you do?
Yeah. So, I'll start kind of our story, how we became bivocational ministers. Because when we met, we were dating and we were serving as interns in the college ministry. We call it the campus ministry. And we loved it. I think that's also bonded us was serving in the ministry together. I mean, we were just like planning fun college ministry events, right? We're studying the Bible with people. We're meeting people on campus and going, do you want to get to know God? And those things just brought us together. And so then now we're going, okay, wow, let's think about we're going to get married. And he's like, I want to be in the ministry full time. And I'm like, really? I don't. Because I just looked at ministers like, wow, they really don't get paid. Like, I don't want to be broke the rest of my life, Although it's funny because now that I've grown, I'm like, wow, but God has a special place for full-time ministers because they are taken care of. Like, I just hear the craziest stories of like, we didn't even realize in this
so many miracles.
Yes. Miracle after miracle after miracle. I'm like, oh my goodness. So anyways, God proved me wrong on that years later, right? But, and so as we're discussing like, okay, well, we're going to get married and he has this dream of being in the full-time ministry, being paid. That's all he does is preach, meet with people, counsel, build up churches, all of that. And for me, I'm like, I want to be in the corporate world. Right. And so because I had this vision of me growing up poor, broke in a sense of all the financial instability from my childhood, I carried that fear of, I don't want to continue that brokenness in a sense in my adulthood. So I'm going to try to make it big, quote unquote, in the corporate world. And so he was like, okay, well, and of course we had mentors in our life and our church that helped us with this. And so we compromised. And it was, well, why don't we still serve at a high capacity in the church, but we will just self-support ourselves. We'll still have our full-time secular jobs, but we're still going to serve as if we're like in the full-time ministry. And so that's what we did. And yeah, we got married. I think I was 22. He was 23, 24. Oh yeah, I was 23, 25. There you go. 23 and 25. And so we served in the youth and family ministry, which is like junior high and teenagers. And then we served, we still kind of served in the campus ministry. We also built up young marrieds groups. Then we started serving, our responsibilities kept increasing. And they're like, hey, can you start a whole new ministry at like 5 p.m.? Just start a whole brand new 5 p.m. service. So our responsibilities kept growing. And they're like, can you start this new group? Can you start this new thing? Can you do it? And it's like, oh my goodness. Yeah, sure. And basically we were actually serving at the same capacity as other full-time ministers, but we had our full-time jobs. Wow. And so I was like, oh my goodness. So I think at some point we're like, hi, can we like get like a stipend? We were just shelling out money for the church because again, God was blessing us financially. So we wanted to give back because we're like, we love this church. We love God. We love his people. This is what brings us fulfillment, enjoyment. And so And so then I think it just kind of grew in a sense of we would learn through our mistakes of, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling stressed. Like I'm feeling anxiety. So then I'd work through, okay, what can I do with my schedule? How can I process this with God? I'm going to get therapy. I'm going to pull in a more mature woman in this situation. I'm going to pull in a team. I'm going to work with people. I'm going to raise people up. So we basically just built our life around how do we self-support ourselves? How do we build as we're growing in our careers? Because mind you, he's growing in his career. He's getting promotions. He's getting licensed as a marital family therapist. I'm getting promotions. I'm getting more money, but alongside we're growing more and more responsibility in the church. So it wasn't one or the other. It wasn't like, oh, if you do more for the church, you can't really do more for your career. No, God is like, you can actually have both. And so we were like, oh. And so then people started asking us, how are you doing that? How are you?
I want to know too.
I feel like we've found this secret in a sense, like, because American society says you can't have, like, you can have it all, but you can't have it all. Like, you can't be serving in the church and you can't, like, that's just too much. You have to do less. If you're stressed, do less. But God doesn't say
do
that.
nothing.
Do nothing.
Oh,
like, doesn't
that sounds depressing.
Thank you. Yes. So that's been our life. And so we're like, how do we share this with the world?
Tell us the secret.
What is the secret
I can't
sauce?
wait. I want to do more.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting because the pandemic happens and we literally are getting a few phone calls from people. We got a phone call from this family in Texas. They're like, our church is so small. We can't afford a minister. They couldn't even afford someone part-time to lead their church. They're like, we are willing to do it, but we need training. And we're like, oh, wow. Okay, I guess we could train you. Can you move to Orange County? They're like, yeah, we're willing to move to Orange County to get training so we can go back to our church. We're like, whoa. And then we got phone calls from people around the world. We're like, whoa, we need to almost reproduce what we do and share it with people. And so that's what we've been doing the last few years. It's been taking a very long time because we're like, working full time, we're serving in the church as if we're full time. We have full-time ministry hearts is what we call it. Full-time ministry hearts. Wow. But just, have, secular jobs. So yeah. So we've built a ministry and we called it Stylos Ministry. So STYLOS. So we're really building out a Stylos ministry to help train people, to give people resources, encouragement, community.
Where it can sign.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So what is that? What is a stylos?
Yeah. So stylos in the word in Greek means pillar. And if you look in, I think it's Revelation 3:12. I want to say it says, to those who are victorious, I will make them pillars in the temple of our God. Maybe I'm rephrasing
I
that.
told you that I was receiving. I was ready to receive. That's for me. I love it.
A ver, ahí te va. So I'm going to receive this, okay?
I'm going to cry.
Revelation 3:12 says, the one who is victorious, I will make a pillar in the temple of my God. Never again will they leave it. The verse continues, I will write on them the name of my God and in the name of the city of my God, the new Jerusalem, which is coming down out of heaven from my God, and I will also write on them my new name. Wow. That's incredible because the temple of God, I mean, I want to hear more, right? But I just kind of like a little snippet right here. I just been reading about how the Hebrews from since ever they started following God, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the patriarchs, they always wanted to build an altar for God, and then they build a tabernacle for God, right? So you see a progression. It goes from a place of reverence to God to a tabernacle where he inhabits, then to a temple, right? So a bigger, like more established place. But then Jesus, that's one of the reasons they crucified Jesus, because and they come against him and they bring people saying he said that he will destroy the temple and in 3 days he would rebuild it. They're like, oh, blasphemy, we're gonna throw him away.
They didn't understand.
But they didn't understand. And then who is it? I think it's in the book of Acts, or I think it's in the book of Acts. Stephen when they're stoning Stephen to death, right? He says, basically, he kind of like does a recap of the patriarchs. He goes through history lane and he starts saying, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and all our forefathers. And then he says, basically, this idea that God doesn't dwell in temples made of stone. He dwells in our hearts. He dwells in us.
Yeah.
So this picture of Revelation is making an emphasis that, the temple was great, but that wasn't the goal all along. The goal was that I could dwell in you.
Yeah.
And not only that, he's saying, I will make you pillars of the temple of God. Like you as a person, as a human being, you're part of the construction of the temple of God.
Yeah.
Which is not a building. It's a, in a sense, I don't know, a spiritual building he's making, and you're part of that. If you want to, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
If you believe that.
Yes. That's so cool. Okay, so that's a pillar.
Yeah. So, I appreciate that imagery because it's so true, because now the church is us, right? We are the church, the people.
Yes.
And so he's saying to those who are victorious, because he's talking a lot about persecution in Revelation. It's like, the type of persecution that they got, it was like, if they said Jesus is Lord, they would immediately be taken and fed to the lions. It was just nasty what they experienced. And so he's like, to those who are victorious. So he's saying, if you just keep hanging on to Jesus, keep hanging on to your faith, I will make you a pillar. And so what our vision, our passion, our calling, and my husband and I is really, which I have really taken this personally, is we want to raise up as many pillars in the church, which is individuals that can raise people up and other individuals that can help deal with crises, that can help, the new moms that can maybe start a single parents program, anyone that can really make a difference and be influential in their church and make it better. Those are the people we want to raise up. That's what the church needs. And the full-time minister can't do it all. Full-time ministers are quitting in crazy rates right now. Their burnout is absolutely through the roof because God never designed them, going back to what we were originally stating, for them to do it on their own.
Do everything.
They can't do everything
themselves.
on their own. The church is meant to do that with them. We're supposed to be disciples, just like they're a disciple of Jesus. We're a disciple of Jesus. But again, because of our culture, we go, well, the minister should just do everything.
That's why they get paid.
Yes,
right?
That's your job.
Yeah.
It's like, oh goodness,
Wow.
check your heart. If you, ooh, like,
but how do you find the people that are like you, who are within the church, and they're like, I would do this even if they don't pay me.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I can pay my own salary, but I love the church and I want to invest in the church with my time and talent and all of those. And like, are those hard to find people? Are most people like, where did you? Because I don't know. It seems like people are like, oh well, that's their job. That's what the pastor does, or that's why we hire them to do the ministry stuff, right? But I don't know. Is that right?
I know. And maybe that's our laziness. We go, we'll pay them. Oh, I'm donating money for him to do his job. So he should do his job. I'm like, yes, they're doing it maybe more than you are, but we're still called to the same standard of living in the Bible, all of us, right? Now, I think when full-time ministers get to heaven, they're going to have, any leader in the church is going to be like, woo, there's going to be a little bit more pressure on them as far as, anyways, more accountability. But honestly, it's having intimate conversations with people. That's how we've been able to find other people that are like, I want to be like you. We have been told, I can't even count, I want to be like you. I want to be able to, like, young marrieds that we'll have dinner with. And again, we're sharing a meal. We're having those deep conversations, because you can't find these people by doing an announcement or a Facebook ad or, posting on social media. I feel like you can to a degree, but it's having those intimate conversations and going, what are your dreams? What are your goals? What do you want for your life? And then you find out, oh, they do want to make an impact. And then you almost maybe they don't see that they can do it in the church, because sometimes we're blinded by ourselves, right? We go, oh, well, I want to have this great career. I want to be a graphic designer and I'm trying to build my business. you know what? If somebody says that over the table, my husband and I will go, oh, that is amazing. How can we support you in your career wanting to be a graphic designer? Maybe we actually need your services in the church. Why don't you help? You know what? We can actually use you for this event. We need love if you can create flyers. We don't have much to pay, or maybe we can like give you like $100, like a little gift. Or you know what? Why don't we just treat you out to dinner? That's all that we can do. And so we kind of allow them to find out their dream. You can actually do it in the church too. God is not limited to you doing it outside. You can live your dream here in the church and serve the church, and it's fun.
Look at us.
Yeah. I mean, but
we're living our dream, don't you?
Yes, but I think, yes, we are. I love it. But I think that's a great invitation, because if something maybe, kind of like tying it back to the whole conversation we've been having today, is coming from Mexico and coming from a Christian church in Mexico, that was supernatural over there. Like growing up, and I'm going to school, but I can use my talents in the church. That was so natural.
Without getting paid.
Without getting paid. Like, it's what I tell the musicians all the time. We were, I don't know if now has changed, right? Because things evolve, and for sure, the churches are different now, I'm sure. But nobody was getting paid to be a worship leader, right? Nobody was getting paid, to be the kids ministry lead or whatever. You just did it because, I'm serving passion. Christ, I'm serving God.
Yeah.
This is awesome. And not to say, that they don't deserve to be paid, but it was just like the natural thing to do, And so anyways, all that, like, I feel like why don't we find people like that here? Like, what's missing? Or maybe they want it. It's like the one thing they want, but they don't know that they want.
Yeah.
Right? This is really what you need, but you haven't discovered it.
And let me know if I'm wrong, but I think faith is a lot of what we fear for. Probably we don't have enough faith to do what we love to do because we're afraid of not having enough for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if I'm going to invest my time on this, how I'm going to survive?
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. I feel like...
like if I deplete myself if I keep giving and giving and giving, then I'm going to be left with nothing. Mm-hmm. And so if I give too much to the church, then...
how am I going to survive?
Yeah.
It's like... Mm-hmm. You need to have faith that God is in charge.
Yeah.
That He will supply. And you were saying that before, that when you live by faith, it's like you don't know how you're going to pay rent tomorrow, but today you have enough.
Yeah.
And God is a God of miracles. Ooh. And we watch, and look where we were before and look where we are right now. And all the miracles we experience. Like, of course, God is going to do it again. Because He did it in the past, He's going to do it again.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the best Christmas ever. Because we think, how are we going to make it for Christmas and our gifts? And I'm telling you all this because that's how we live, by faith. Mm-hmm. To be illegal here and do what we love to do without knowing that we're going to have enough.
Yeah.
But so far, we every day we eat, and we glorify God for everything He does. He opened doors when we think, that will not be possible for ourselves to do it, right? But God opened doors, and it's like, oh, wow, that was God.
Wow.
Because by ourselves, it will never happen. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think faith is huge. Absolutely. Because and I was I've been challenged in my faith in living this bivocational life. It's like, okay, I feel like I'm giving so much. It's like I'm going to work, and then we have what's called midweek. So we'll have like a midweek service like on a Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm exhausted like everyone else who's driving to our midweek service, but then I've got to plan it and coordinate it and maybe do the lesson, or I'm leading songs. And so I think what was interesting, because I'm like, then I drive home and I'm like falling asleep at the wheel because I just feel spent. So it's then So, but if you feel spent, you feel overwhelmed, you feel stressed, you keep going through that and you bring God into it. And that's where I was like, okay, I'm feeling exhausted. I need help. So that's when you raise the red flag. That's where faith comes in. Nicole, I can't do everything. Nicole and Pablo, my husband, we can't do everything. So I go, we need shepherds. We need people who are wiser than we are. We need people who are experienced in helping marriages. We need people who are experienced in planning events. We need people who are, and so that's when we look
a team.
We need a team.
Yes.
We could not do it without a team. There's no way. And so that has really alleviated a lot of the stress that we have felt, because then now we've built a team, and guess what? Now we built a community. So now there's fulfillment. So now I'm serving in the church with my friends, people I love, that I value, I respect. And I'm like, they are living.
Awesome.
And then I feel like this is discipleship to its fullest. Now I'm fulfilled and I'm happy. Oh, it's like the best feeling ever.
That's how I felt right now in my life to being a mother. I was just texting my friend, thank you so much for coming yesterday to my house. I am so thankful for your life, because I can do this by myself. Just to raise my kids. I need people around me, where support me, that, what, I feel you. I'm a mom too, and I cook and I do this and I do that. And I have such a hard time with my kids because I'm teaching this, and I feel the same way. And just to listen to each other, that's normal. To having teenagers, and, they have their times and it's challenging. And plus we're sending them to a life group or to a youth group. That's so helpful too, because, it's some parts that I'm in this time of my life that for me, it's so hard to sit down and do games with my kids. Plus, my kids, they need other friends their age, to do that, to play games and have fun,
Yeah.
So I need a team.
We need each other.
We need
That's
each other.
And
Yes.
when we can admit that and be humble, but then say that to someone, I need you. That is so vulnerable. And now you're building that trust. I was learning recently that trust isn't built by asserting authority. Like, trust isn't like, well, here's my resume and here's all the great things I've done. Trust is when there's actually that mutuality, that back and forth, saying, yes, here's all that I have, but you know what? I need you too. What you offer is helping me, and there's like that mutuality. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because trust, I feel like, has been taught in our society, like, oh, well, I can trust this person because they're a doctor or because they have this degree, right? But then God, as we know, uses the lowly.
Yes.
He uses the poor. He uses those who don't have a lot to make a huge impact. And that's how I feel like I am. I came from little. My husband came from little. And we're just trying to make it with God. We're like, let's go. And I'm like, and so then, because I wasn't given everything in life, I had to work really hard. I mean, God gave it to me. Then I can admit my need. And then people are like, oh, well, yeah, I have that strength, because I know I have a lot of weaknesses. And so I'm able to admit, okay, I need someone like this, like this, like this. And they're like, oh, I can do that. And so I think when we can come as a leader with humility, people respond so good to that. But I think as leaders, we're like, I got it all together.
So
That's
we need to pray for that hearts, that they think they can do it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
Oof. Oh, so good.
A lot.
Okay, can't wait to have Pablo here on the podcast too. And if he speaks Spanish, that would be awesome, because like we were saying, we can do like this whole thing but in Spanish and just put it on the Spanish stream.
Yeah.
But there's so many valuable lessons in what we've been talking about. And gonna kick off the music while you say, where do you want to point people to, if they're maybe local here and they want to find out more about the work you're doing and how they can, get in touch with you, just tell them, Stylos or I don't know where they can go, but
Yeah.
please.
Absolutely. You can follow us on Instagram at Stylos Leadership, Stylos Leadership. Send me a message, put the word leader in the message, and then I'll send you our free guide for the 10 must-have essentials for being successful and balanced in your career and ministry life. We want to support you and help you. You can also check out our website, Stylos, Stylos.world, WORLD. We want to connect with you. We'd love to have you. Let us know how we can help you.
Love it. That's so good. Okay.
Thank you so much for being the light and the salt of this world. I can wait for follow your steps.
I love what you guys are doing. Thanks for being a light and allowing us to just share our stories with the world. Oh, you guys are amazing.
God is doing beautiful things on our times.
Yes.
He's
It's
amazing.
so good. Yeah, this is I don't know, I learned so much whenever you're here, and I love that you said like you don't need to have a book. No, you just need to have a story and trust that God is doing something with that story and in your life, and take action and do it in faith. And those are the lessons we want to learn from, and that's why you're here. And that's why your husband will be here too.
Yeah.
Because
Will be more times to come. Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you so much for your precious time.
Okay. To all my friends, thank you for being here on this episode. You can like, subscribe, share this episode with a friend. Go visit us at christianpodcast.com. We have streams in Spanish and in English. And we're branding
Para la
this
gloria de Dios.
for the glory of God. Christian Podcast Latino.
Yes.
Love it.
We'll see you guys on the next one.
Ciao.